Yo, what up guys, Travic here. Today I want to talk about this crazy build that I've been playing over the last couple of days on stream and off stream. We are playing, and you may have guessed it, Ignite Elementalist Eviscerate Retaliation. It's an absolute mouthful. Now, I've played a lot of crazy builds over the leagues, and over the years I've played things from Kinetic Blast to Power Siphon Mines to Reap to Mana Stacker to all kinds of crazy things, and this one ranks up there of like really weird, interesting ones that I would never see myself playing. I say time and time again, I'm not going to play a dot-based build, but here I am, and kind of it's a little crazy. Now, if you're not familiar with a retaliate skill or what is going on, Eviscerate is a retaliation skill that pretty much says when something happens, you can use this skill. So in this case, we are a retaliation skill that says when you block, you can then attack with Eviscerate. It sounds a little weird, it sounds a little clunky, I know, but we'll get into it and we'll talk about it. Today's build is going to be featuring Eviscerate with energy shield stacking. We're going to be focused on capping our resistances with Flask until Mage Blood. We're going to be focused on having max block, a ton of armor, a bunch of energy shield, ailment immunities, and we're going to be talking about pushing our character and build as far as we can go. And towards the end, I'll be sharing with you guys an absolute juicer variation of the POE that'll be linked for you down below, both in the mobalytics and the video description that you guys can check out. But if you've never seen retaliation, let's kind of go over to the Blood Aqueducts and let's take a look at what is going on. Now, you're going to notice Eviscerate right now is not active. It is completely turned off, and it will activate once I find a mob and get hit and block. And as soon as I block, you're going to see that skill light up, and there it goes. And then we can cast Eviscerate, and it just blows up. Obviously, it's just going to blow up everything here. We're in Blood Aqueducts, but just so you can see what's going on, just that it just blows up. And because we're playing Elementalist, we can chain across the screen and across the map. Now, it's going to be a little bit hard to see the skill in this area, but we can jump into a map and you'll get a really good feel for it. What you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking for a wave like that is going to go out in front of you and shoot across the screen and blow up everything. Once again, like I said, it'll definitely be easier to go into a map and see it in a mapping scenario. Now, this build utilizes a lot of explodes, and because the explodes are really cool and make things hard to see, we're going to take off our explode ring for a couple of mobs so you can see what's going on. So you see we get hit, and then we can cast that wave, and you can see that wave going out, just triggering and hitting all the mobs, and then our ignites spread, and they kill everything in a range. So now that we can see that, we can put our explode ring back on it, we can just kind of go about the map. Essentially, you're going to be playing this build like any other build. You're going to be, shield charging around the map. You're going to be blowing things up. You're going to be smiting to get extra damage, and pretty much everything in its mother is just going to blow up and just completely die. The downside to Eviscerate is sometimes that there are no mobs around, or there's only one mob around, and that mob is not hitting you, so you can't block and cast your spell. But we have a weapon swap for that, and we'll talk about. And you can see that you're able to just come into these breaches, shield charge around, blow everything up, clear all the mobs. You could take a couple of hits, and you're pretty tanky. Now, in terms of this build, what I've personally been using it for is I've been using it to do a lot of Blight farming. Blight is insane with ignites. Any kind of ignite build, any kind of proliferate build, anything like that is just an absolute powerhouse. And you can see our dot damage on the boss is actually not that bad. One ignite took down his health. Our second ignite is going pretty good. And depending on the strength of the hit from your retaliate will be how hard your ignites are going to scale. The ups and the downs of this is we are energy shield stacking, and we are getting a lot of flat damage from Ephemeral Edge, but sometimes our damage does fall on the lower side. We do a damage roll from 37 to 64,000, and I think it gets as high as like 150, 200,000. So sometimes you could just hit on the lower end of things. But overall, the build in itself is really, really, really strong, and it's been an absolute blast to play. Now you're going to see inside of Blight here what's going on, and we could talk about things. Now, I had mentioned that we have a weapon swap when things get a little hairy, and we are going to be using the Monastery Bell as a weapon swap. And you'll see during this Blight encounter, we're going to freeze all the enemies. All the enemies are going to be frozen in stun, and they won't hit us, and we won't be able to trigger Eviscerate. So we'll have our weapon swap to be able to do that. Essentially, the Monastery Bell says count as blocking attack damage from the first targeted hit with each shield attack. So I'll walk you through when it happens. Everything's going to be stunned and frozen. We're going to weapon swap, shield charge, trigger Eviscerate, weapon swap back, and kill all the mobs. And before anybody says anything, We have weapon swap right here on our thumb. So while we're holding our mouse, we could just weapon swap back and forth pretty easily. Now, note you don't need to do this. This just makes it a little bit easier for the content that I'm running, which is indeed Blight. And of course, the one time that we do this, we get the 3-laner. So this should be more on the interesting side, but we'll see what happens. And these will not be the boss, so this will be fine. This is going to be the boss more than likely. Yeah, see, these are the bosses. Do we not have? Okay, so we have one tower to deal with the bosses. Okay, so we might have to do another map to showcase what's going on, just simply due to the fact that we're going to get cooked on our lanes, but we'll see what happens. Now, you can see the damage is pretty good on the bosses here. We're able to kill the bosses. We're able to spread our ignites, and you're going to notice right away this guy just doesn't care at all, and he's going to hop all around. You see we had to weapon swap there, trigger our ignites. Our ignites are going off again. We're not getting hit. We're getting hit. Everything's going off. Our ignites aren't going on. There we go. We got hit. Our ignites are going off again, and we're able to just do what we need to do, and it's working pretty well. So we come up here. We'll kill all these mobs. We'll hit them with the Eviscerate. We'll come over here. This guy's going to jump. He's going to jump right past us, and it's not going to matter. Our towers are not going to stop him. Our towers are not going to stop him. Our towers are not going to stop him. And welcome to Blight, where sometimes the mob doesn't care about anything and jumps right past you. Normally, other content creators will probably just cut that out. They, you know, it is what it is. But let's just get out of here, grab another map, and go again. Unfortunate. I mean, it happens, right? It is what it is. So let's just dump all this crap really quick. Those were bad. Move this to the side. And yes, indeed, it happens. I know. XD. I have a thing for hives. Just gonna put that on there for now. All right, so let's grab another map. So this map is Enfeeble, monster damage, endurance charge, reduce crit, unique bosses are possessed, physics extra chaos, spell suppression, wither, buffs on players expire faster. Take 2. And this time, little goat man, listen, I'm trying to do things. You just can't jump past me and ruin everything, because it's not cool, man. It's just not cool. Now we're going to be using Smite in here to boost up our damage. We're going to be using Val Smite because Val Smite is absolutely bonkers and hits the entirety of the screen, and it's really, really, really strong. And you can see just with this breach, you know, the Val Smite plus Eviscerate plus regular Smite, we just cleared the whole breach, you know, very, very easily. Same thing with like when you go into the hives. This build just absolutely chains across the board and blows everything up with hives. I was really kind of hoping that we would get a hive, and I've tried doing a couple of maps before instead of recording to get a hive, but I didn't get any luck. So we're just running it out. Okay, so we did that. We grabbed this. Is this any good? Yep, dupe, we're good. Let's go to Cassia, and fingers crossed we don't get a bad Blight layout and we get a good one, and we can showcase what is going on. So we actually have lanes and towers, and it's looking a little bit better than the last time. So we can see exactly how this build works, how the weapon swap works, what's going on, the actual damage behind it, and everything. That's good. So I had mentioned the weapon swap, and you see that it Eviscerate's off, and then I weapon swap, Eviscerate's on, and then I'm able to just cast everything without any kind of issues. Eviscerate's off, we weapon swap, we attack, Eviscerate's on, we can cast without any kind of issues. And this lane over here should be the bosses. Let's build some towers. There's all the bosses. There's our jumping friend all over again. And then you can see our damage is pretty solid and respectable. Now, Eviscerate is off. We weapon swap, we attack, Eviscerate is on, and we can cast our Eviscerates without any kind of problems. Now, I will do a video about the Blight farming strategy that I'm running here. My buddy Lang put this together, and between him and Void, they came up, or like they each have their own like respective takes on it. And I think Lang told Void about it or something, but I'll clarify it. And they, you know, it's pretty good. But you can see, I just, you know, mobs are stunned. I weapon swap, I turn on Eviscerate, I attack, everything dies, it all gets ignited. I don't have to worry about anything. The ignites spread, they do their job, and problem solved. Now, I personally haven't taken this into Ubers, but Ubers would follow the same kind of flow. You would wait to get hit. After you get hit, you know, you'd be able to cast your Eviscerate, or you would weapon swap and try to cast your Eviscerate and do all that shenanigans. But I'm not a very big Uber farmer. I really don't enjoy a lot of that content except on very specialized builds. So I didn't do a whole lot of this with this build. I have talked to people that have done it with this build. The damage can get there, And with the POB that we have for you guys down below, with more of the juicer strategies, it does get up to something like 18 or 19 million uber dot DPS. So regular DPS cap is 35.5 or 35.2 million, something like that. Somebody will correct me if you know the exact number. Please leave a comment down below. It'd be more than helpful. And then when you go to uber bosses, the mobs are stronger, so you need more damage. So we're able to push the damage to higher and higher and higher levels. Now I have a couple of friends that are playing this very close to the variant I'm playing it, and they're doing very well. I have friends that are playing it on a slightly more budget variant, and they're also doing very well with it. And you can really spend a lot of your time playing this build and constantly keep investing into it and investing into it, investing into it, and just make it really, really, really good. Now I've done tier 17 maps. They can do tier 17 maps and handle them really well. The only thing that I had a hard time with was the Giga Juicer Titanic Blight with the Legend Scarab. That's been like the only thing that's been a really hard time. Things like Ritual though are absolutely a cakewalk. You know, anything that just like is a tight and closed area that you can get hit. You can do Ultimatum. Ultimatum's not too bad either. Sims are really easy. You might not get 6 waves every single sim, but things like Ultimatum are absolutely super duper easy. Expedition is an absolute cakewalk as well, assuming you don't blow up your maps poorly. And then, like I said, you shield charge, eviscerate. You can debuff with Arcanist Brand. You can debuff with Smite. You can just weapon swap. You can attack. You just weapon swap. You get your thing up. You attack, and then you just kind of let the build do what it does best and just ignite it and bring it to the brinks of death. Now, my variation is not the best of the best. I do not have everything that the Giga Juicer variant has. I'm actually missing 2, 4, 6 jewel sockets, and I'm missing a Thread of Hope. And I purposely have it like this currently so that I can show you guys that you can do 8 modded tier 16 Blight maps. You can do them with a whole lot of the Titanic Scarabs. You do have the damage to push and get your build up there nice and strong. And I left it like this without making a lot of upgrades, just so that you can see that there is a lot of power. There's a lot of room for upgrades. And, you know, having avenues to upgrade the build is pretty good. I don't even have a Mage Blood yet, which is, for at this stage in the league, completely crazy, but we're slow rolling it and it's fine. Now, we will be an Ephemeral Edge build. We will take advantage of stacking as much energy shield as we can, because attacks with this weapon have added maximum lightning damage equal to 12% of the player's maximum energy shield, and that number can go up to 15%. Now I have a very fancy Ephemeral Edge. These things, like week 1 of the league, were between 5 and 10 divines for double corrupted, double influence ones. So me and all my friends, we all bought fancy ones, and we've just been playing around with fancy ones. Now, if you're looking to get one that is like super fancy, I would say attack speed is really, really good. Onslaught or Fortify is really, really good, but you don't need the double influence, all that jazz. This is just something that I thought was really cool, but you don't need it. I would mainly focus on 50% increased maximum energy shield, and I would focus on having as close to 15% added lightning damage as possible. We are going to be using 2 Foulborn rings. I do have a Foulborn LaHoop with global defenses. If I take this ring off, you can see my global defenses. I lose a bunch of energy shield. Also, my weapon turns off, but you can see it adds a whole lot of extra energy shield. And you can indeed use 2 of these. I played for a long time without the Foulborn's Fair Smite, and I used the 2 LaHoops, and it worked out really, really, really well. I actually have the other LaHoop right here that I was messing around with, and it worked out great. You can see I actually have the Thread of Hope and the Storm Shroud and the Lethal Pride and all that stuff ready to go for, you know, and there's the melding, and I have all the extra stuff, but I didn't put it on yet. The second ring we're going to be using is the Foulborn's Barracks of Spite. This ring is probably one of the most expensive parts of the whole build, outside of Mage Blood. If you can't afford this, don't worry about it. You don't need it. It's just extra. It's just good explodes. And if you can only buy one-sided explode, just buy one-sided explode. The reason why this ring is so good is it says ignited and shocked enemies explode, dealing percentage of their life every time they die. And because we are elementalists, we are always igniting and we are always shocking. So everything always explodes, and the explodes chain into the explodes, that chain into the explodes. And it's quite lovely and wonderful. I've seen this ring go as high as 80, 90, 100 divines. And I've seen this ring go as low as 20. I bought mine for 20, and currently at the time of recording it's between 40 and 50 divines. It's probably gonna be the most expensive thing. If you were to buy an Ephemeral Edge by itself, an Ephemeral Edge, because it's now tier 1, is like 100C. A 50% roll is 2 to 3 divines. And then if you were to get it with Fortify, it's between 3 and 240 divines. It's crazy. We paid between 5 and 10 when we bought ours. Now, I know I didn't talk about links. Our Ephemeral Edge is going to have Frost Blink, so we can move around. It's going to have faster attacks, and it's going to have Shield Charge. Those are our main movement skills. The rings we just talked about, we're going to be pairing our rings with an Ashes. You want as high as the 30% quality as possible, because the 30% quality boosts everything that we're trying to do. Because we're Elementalists, we have Golems, and it boosts all the effects of our Golems by a whole lot. When because we're Eviscerate, it boosts the effect of our Eviscerate and gives us more increased cooldown recovery rate. So as Ashes as high as you can to 30% quality. Because we're talking about Eviscerate, let's go over to the body armor and talk about the 6 link. Our body armor, our 6 link is going to be our Eviscerate. I have a 2120. If I were to take this out and a price check this at the time of recording, they're relatively cheap, about 150 C or about 1.3 divines. You want the 21 for the extra damage, the 20% quality for the increased cooldown recovery rate. Eviscerate has a 4-second cooldown naturally or something. I believe it's like 4 seconds. Cooldown time 3 seconds. And then with the Ashes and everything, it brings the cooldown down to 2 seconds, which is really nice. Repairing it with Awaken Elemental Damage with attacks so that we're Ailment immune or Reflect immune. Volatility for more high-end damage. Awaken Burning Damage since we're dot-based. Awaken Deadly Ailment since we're dot-based. And Awaken Unbound Ailment Support. Now, my body armor for this build is Tier 1 Twilight Regalia Triple Energy Shield with resistances. The suffixes on my current body armor are nowhere near perfect. The prefixes came from our Lord and Savior, the Genesis tree. This armor dropped as is from the Genesis tree, and I slapped on cold resistance and called it a good day. In our implicits, we put increased effect buffs of our golems, and we put physical damage taken from hits is taken as chaos. Because we're CI or chaos inoculation, any physical damage we take as chaos pretty much just says just ignore the physical damage. So 11% of physical damage is just completely ignored. You can get this kind of body armor by taking advantage of the Genesis tree. And the Genesis tree is pretty straightforward in terms of searching for body armors. You essentially just make your tree to search for whatever piece you want. In your case, body armors. You make it so that it has a random amount of quality. You can get a nice quality roll. You don't want chaos modifiers since you're CI. You want it to link as many times as possible. You don't care about caster modifiers because there's no caster modifiers. You want it to be fractured because you can get nice fracture rolls. You don't want life rolls at all. And then down here, you're going to say you want more defense modifiers because energy shield is defense. We take all the small nodes to give us more chance at everything. And we don't want strength. We don't want dex, and we want higher intelligence requirements. Those are the same things that we're going to be using across the board, almost exclusively for the other pieces with minor changes. We'll talk about them when we get there. But that's that. Now, because we are dot based and because we got everything going on, we're going to be using a Dianon's Dawn. If you can get it with energy shield on it, great. You ideally want as much fire and cold resistance as you can. And the reason why we use this belt, this says ignites to inflict with attack deal damage 35% faster. Now, when I started playing this build and I put it all together, after I made the body armor, I grabbed some other pieces of gear and I grabbed them as pure ES bases, and I started playing them as pure ES bases. You can play this build as pure energy shield, but it works a lot better as armor energy shield. So our helmet, boots, and gloves are going to be armor energy shield. Not only does armor give us another access to a defensive layer, but it also helps for divine shield, which we'll talk about when we get there. Now, my armor, helmet, boots are also a product of the Genesis tree. And just like how we did the body armor, we make a couple of changes to get the rest of the gear. So if you want helmets, you choose helmets. If you want gloves or boots, you choose gloves and boots. And the big change that you're going to do is roughly around here, where you're going to say that you want, instead of less strength requirements, you want more strength requirements, because these are armor intelligence bases. Otherwise, everything on the Genesis tree stays exactly the same. Now let's start with the helmet. For our helmet, we have as much armor and energy shield as possible in the prefixes. The suffixes, you ideally want intelligence, and then we craft on dex and strength because we do need a bunch of dex and strength. The ideal suffixes would be intelligence, resistance of some sort, dex and strength. Our helmet's going to have our determination, we're going to have our enlightened force support, we're going to have our discipline, and we're going to have our malevolence. Our helmet's also going to have flammability curse, which we're going to talk about in a second when we get to the Arcanist brand. And we're going to have physical damage taken from hits as chaos damage for the same reason that we do the chest plate. Any hit taken as fizz gets converted over to chaos, and we feel really good about ourselves. Moving on over to our gloves. Once again, the Genesis tree spit out a bunch of armor and energy shield gloves with resistance and strength, and then we craft on dex and int. We're going to do inflict fire exposure on hit for 11% fire resistance. Eventually, I'm going to make this higher. And ignites, you inflict spread to other enemies within 1.2 meters. Eventually, I'm also going to make this higher so that it spreads around some more and hits all the enemies quite nicely. Our gloves are going to have our Summon Chaos Golem, our Enhanced Support, our Flame Golem, and our Stone Golem. Now, Enhanced Support gives you more quality on gems alongside ashes, and that's going to make our golems have a 66% increased buff effect, which is quite nice. Our Flame Golem is going to give us increased damage. Our Stone Golem is going to give us increased regeneration and defenses. Our Chaos Golem is going to give us more damage over time. And then we do have a Lightning Golem somewhere, and that's going to give us attack and cast speed. Now, since we're talking about the Lightning Golem, let's talk about the boots. The boots, the exact same thing. As much armor and energy shield as possible. Movement speed, because it's quite lovely. Dex in strength and resistance. The implicits on the boots, we're going to do increased effect buff of our Stone Golem. And the reason why Stone Golem is so important, it gives us increased defenses and regenerate life per second, which we'll talk about. And then we also get Ignites deal damage faster, which is a huge multiplier in terms of our damage. Now, our boots are really weirdly linked. We have Summon Lightning Golem with Combustion support, and then we have Smite. We do not link the Tempest Shield so that we can have enough mana to fit everything. Which reminds me, my buddy Scott, hey Scott, I'm gonna DM you while I do this video. Make sure your Lightning Shield isn't linked to anything so you have enough mana to fit it. Because I forgot and I linked it. So you gotta make sure that you have it unlinked, otherwise it's gonna be cooked. And I completely forgot about that. And I know my buddy Scott's playing the same build, and he's gonna watch this video and be like, son of a bitch, he didn't tell me. Then he's gonna see me telling him in the video, and it's real time. He's gonna look at the DMs, he's gonna laugh, and he's gonna, you know, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Very important. Make sure it's not linked so you have enough. Yes, very important, because if I do this and I do this, it is unusable at 21.52%. And if I go like this, it becomes 16.56%. Very important. Now, the last thing on the list that we're gonna talk about is our shield. We are using Aegis Aurora. It is one of our biggest defensive layers. Aegis Aurora gives us elemental resistance, max cold resistance, chance to block, recover energy shield equal to our armor when you block. Recover energy shield equal to your armor. This is why we use armor evasion bases, or armor energy shield bases, so that we have a ton of energy shield and we have a ton of armor, and then when we block, 2% of our armor becomes our energy shield regain, and it kind of goes hand in hand and really nice. 30% quality was nice. We did chance scour it. We used the Omen, I think it was called, and we got it. You do not need it double corrupted or double influenced or whatever it is. It's just fancy. We did it fancy. You don't need it like that. Our shield is going to have flammability, flame surge, and Arcanist brand. Arcanist brand is a brand that you can cast. It looks like this right here, and it pulses on the monster, and it'll cast flame surge, which will give you burning ground, and ignited enemies create burning ground. Burning ground deals 25% more damage to ignited enemies. And then flammability is a fire curse that reduces their fire resistance to the moon. In terms of our flask, we are not currently a mage blood setup, so our flasks are a little interesting. I have remove ignite to cover our ignite immunity. We have tempest shield for our shock immunity. We have granite flask to give us bleed and corrupt blood immunity, a topaz flask for elemental resistances and maximum lightning resistance, a ruby flask for maximum fire resistance and increased armor, a sapphire flask for increased block and stun recovery during effect, giving us max cold resistance. Quicksilver flask speaks for itself. Granite flask speaks for itself. All of these flasks should have gained charges when hit, so that they're always up since you're always getting hit. Pretty straightforward. Now, we talked about the weapon swap earlier. Let's talk about the weapon swap again. You're going to do a couple things with the weapon swap. One, you're going to have faster attacks, shield charge, and frost blink inside your weapon swap. This way that you always have shield charge and frost blink. We're going to use a monastery bell. This item is exactly one entire chaos orb, probably less at the time of recording. You care about none of the rolls on the weapon. You care about nothing on the weapon. The only thing you care about is counts as blocking attack damage from the first hit with each shield attack. That will just trigger our retaliate because it will count as though we're always blocking. And then we have a second Aegis Aurora because since we're weapon swapping and we don't want to accidentally die, we have a second Aegis Aurora. So that's that. Now you're going to see if you compare the gear that I have to the Giga Juicer POB, it's roughly kind of the same. It's Ephemeral Edge, Aegis Aurora, Armor Energy Shield bases, ES base there, and it's got a Taming instead of a La Hoop. It's got a Mage Blood, and the flask are going to be slightly different. So, you know, just things to work towards. Now, in terms of graphs, I like using this graph, the 3% additional physical damage reduction graph with damage over time multiplier. I think this is really strong. Tender's Embrace, unfortunately, doesn't do anything. For our second one, we have Call of the Pyre. I think Call of the Pyre is really strong. I'd like to get a better one that has a higher level Call of the Pyre, but this one has damage ailments deal damage faster, damaging ailments deal damage faster, so that I'm able to just kind of like shield charge around, or I'm able to smite and this pyre goes off. The pyre ignites the enemies die from the ignites, they explode, it ignites, goes all around, it hits all the enemies, everything blows up. It feels pretty good. It's great. The build's great, dude. I'm level 96. We're cruising straight to 97. Now let's take a look at the ascendancy and what's going on here. We are indeed Elementalist. In the Juicer variation, you were still Elementalist with a Forbidden Flesh and Flame, which is like 200 divines for the pair. I don't know if I'm gonna buy that. Oh my god, dude, the idea of that. But anyways, we are Liege of the Primordial so that we can have more summoned golems. We are also Liege of the Primordial for golem effect. We are Shaper of Storms so that our hits always shock, more damage, more shock damage. Damage shock is more damage the enemy takes, which more explodes tied with the ring. Shaper of Storms, good, very strong. Shaper of Flames, everything ignites. All damage can ignite. Everything ignites. It doesn't matter what you do. If you explode, the enemy ignites. You hit the enemy, ignites. You sneeze on the enemy, ignites. Everything ignites, just like everything shocks. Everything shocks, so everything ignites. Everything does both of these things. Everything explodes. Quite lovely. And then Mastermind of Discord so that we can apply increased exposure. Also, the regenerate mana is pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. We're going to be pathing up towards all the energy shield nodes. Now we go up the right side because the first node here is maximum energy shield and mana versus spell damage, which doesn't do anything. So we take the right side node so that we can get more energy shields, so forth and so on. Eventually you'll have enough int on all of your gear that you'll tattoo all of your tree with maximum energy shield, which I'm currently working on, which you could see. I actually got to go get the energy shield tattoos, which I'm going to go do very shortly. We're going to be taking a jewel socket over here for Calamitous, Martial Prowess, and Prodigious Defense. Calamitous gives us a chance to free shock and ignite, which we always do. Elemental damage with attack skills and increased effect of non-damaging elements. And then we get Prodigious Defense, so we get block spell and attack damage and increased attack damage while holding a shield. And eventually we're going to get jewel sockets, which we're going to get before pre-Mage Blood jewel sockets. You're going to want energy shield and as much dot multi and faster damage over time as possible. So they're pretty straightforward. It's just more damage over time, damage multiplier, energy shield. We take Chaos Inoculation so that we're immune to chaos damage, and then we take the 2 nodes down here to get increased mana recovery rate or mana efficiency of skills. Coming over here, we're getting Golem Commander to increase the maximum number of summoned golems and the buff of our golems. We'll eventually take this jewel socket here so that we can put a Thread of Hope. When we put the Thread of Hope, we're going to be dropping these points here and grabbing a bunch of other things. We come up to Breath of Flames for damage over time and fire damage. We make our way over here to a Natural Calm for maximum energy shield, maximum lightning resistance, and then increase energy shield from equipped helmet. We, for now, put on Defiled Forces from our Anoint so that we can just constantly refresh our ignites. We have a Light of Meaning Jewel for increased energy shield, and you can see that we're getting a whole bunch of extra energy shield from all of our nodes here. We come down over here to Elemental Overload so that we get to deal more damage. We have Arcane Guarding for more spell block, and we take the Mastery for 1% chance to block attack damage for 5% chance to block on equipped shield. So since our shield has a whole bunch of block, we get a whole bunch of extra block attack. We come up over here to Acrimony for 50% increased damage over time multiplier, and then we put on Runegraft of the Fortress for more increased global defenses. Moving on down over here to Safeguard so that we get 3% the maximum chance to block spell damage, and we cover 50 energy shield when we block, which is really nice. More maximum chance to block means more overall block, which is really good. Zealot's Oath for life regeneration is applied to energy shield instead, which also goes hand in hand with our Sullen Golem. And then we have Holy Fire here for damage over time multiplier and fire resistance. Moving on down this way, we take all the mana nodes, the RMR nodes, so we get Sovereignty for more RMR and Curse effect, and then we tattoo on 15% increased reservation efficiency of skills. And then our auras are affected on the enemies. It doesn't really matter. Who cares? Give them the auras. They still die anyways. Coming down over here, we take Faith and Steel for armor, energy shield, and resistances. And then we're going to grab the node that says 100% increased armor and energy shield from equipped body armor if equipped helmet, gloves, and boots all have armor and energy shield. Very strong node, very important. This last little node over here, we don't take. This is actually a jewel socket. I'm going to take this node off and put it into a jewel socket. Probably that one. And then I'm going to take these 3 nodes off here and then these 2 nodes off here, which is 5. And that's going to be 5 more jewel sockets. and then I'm gonna get that level to 97, and that's gonna give me another jewel socket, and we're gonna be cooking with fire. Over here, we take Divine Judgment for 50% reduced elemental damage, and then down here for Sanctum of Thought for reduced extra damage from critical strikes, armor, energy shield. Now you're gonna notice I have a Lethal Pride. There are two places that you could put the Lethal Pride. You could put the Lethal Pride here, or you could put the Lethal Pride here. And you can see in the juicer variation of the POB, I'm pulling it up for you right now, he actually has them reversed. Either spot is okay. Look for Lethal Prides that give you what you need, and you'll be fine. I have Ignites, you inflict, deal damage 10% faster. I have this twice, which is a 20% multiplier. It's a whole lot. It's a lot of damage. Ignites, deal damage faster is huge. And then you take 10% reduced damage from critical strikes. I think that's really good. It pairs very, 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 very well with everything that we're doing. Now in his variation, he takes double damage, ignites, and reduce crit. And then down here, ignites, deal damage faster. So roughly the same thing. You want the reduced damage from crits because you scale it, or you get more reduced damage from crits here. So this is 30%, this is 40%, this is 50, 60%. So you have 60% here, and then you finish off the rest with a Watcher's Eye, which we'll get to in a second. We come down over here, we take another large cluster, the exact same thing, Calamitous, Martial Prowess, Prodigious Defense, the jewel sockets like we talked about already. Come down here to Aggressive Bastion for more chance to block, which is really nice, and gain Endurance, Charge, and Kill. Endurance Charges are always good, extra little bit of defense. We take the jewel socket here for a Watcher's Eye. The mods on the Watcher's Eye that I think are important are damaging ailments you inflict deal damage 12% faster while affected by malevolence, and you take 40% reduced extra damage from critical strikes. So this is why we mentioned the 60% earlier. The 60% plus the 40% here gives us all of the percentage that we need to be immune from critical strikes. And we know anything about Path of Exile, we know that everything crits us and we always die. So we come down here to As the Mountain for 3% maximum block chance, block mastery for spell chance, or the block mastery for chance to block spell damage per 5% chance to block attack and damage. And then we can take some of these retaliation nodes down here. I'll probably end up taking this one off for another jewel socket, just kind of like how he did, so that we have the 6 points with the 6 jewel sockets, or I'll get the level and leave it in. I haven't really made a decision yet. And then we grab one more large cluster down here for Martial Prowess, Prodigious Defense, and Vicious Skewering. We get the Martial Defense here so that we have accuracy, attack speed, attack damage, and increased damaging dealings with skills. And then we Prodigious Defense for more block and attack. But that's really it. That's everything that's going on. Like I said, in the variation that I have, it needs a Mage Blood, it needs the Thread of Hope, it needs 6 jewel sockets, it needs more tattoos. You can see I started tattooing fire damage here. I need a whole lot still. And it's able to do all the content. The only content that I haven't been able to do is the complete juicer Titanic Blight with the Scarab that says... this one, Titanic Scarab of Legends. The only thing I haven't been able to do, but everything else has been absolutely swimming. And like I said, the gear isn't very hard to get. You come on over to your Genesis tree, you pop in the little things inside the Genesis tree, double, triple check your filter because your filter likes to hide everything, and your Genesis tree will start to spit out a whole bunch of stuff, and you know, hopefully you get lucky and things pop out. I actually did my Genesis tree earlier and got a different body armor that was 27% quality, triple tier 1, and I was just like, greetings. All right, that's it. This is the best thing that I've ever seen in the game ever. I hope it stays forever. But my goal is to farm up Mage Blood, change all the stuff over to the Mage Blood variant, play that, farm a bunch of currency, and then I think I'm going to swap eventually to Int Accuracy Stacker. Palstrom's build looks really cool, or if I see something else that really kind of tickles my fancy. But if you have questions about this, or something seems confusing, or you don't know where to go with it, or you have other ideas to make it stronger or better, please by all means leave a comment down below. I'd be more than happy to hear from you guys. You guys have been absolutely great with suggestions on things to do, and if you have any cool farming strategies or anything you'd like to see in future videos, please by all means let me know. I will be live on both Twitch and YouTube, and you guys can come stop by and ask a billion questions. I will be in the Discord. You can come. There's plenty of Path of Exile channels in the Discord. You guys can leave all kinds of questions and comments, and the community will also be able to help you. But for now, friends, I'm going to get this video out to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.